Colonel Marcos looked at Kyle and Fury and said, "Since you two already know each other, I won't say much more. Tonight, as team leaders, you will lead 100 soldiers fully armed and head to the 5th site, the German small-scale transit war zone, for a surprise attack. Remember, this operation involves the simultaneous counter-attack of the 5th site forces. Once you reach your destination, you must complete the assault mission within the specified time." Colonel Marcos's eyes sharpened like a hawk as he spoke. "Success is the only option. Failure is not allowed." "Understood. We guarantee to complete this mission." Fury and Kyle saluted solemnly, indicating their full acceptance of the mission orders. "You can go back and rest for now, Corporal Kyle. Fury, you need to start organizing the troops immediately. When the night arrives, the two of you will depart with the troops on time." After Colonel Marcos handed over the mission briefing and a small-scale battlefield map to both of them, he allowed Kyle and Fury to leave. "Kyle, see you tonight." Fury bid farewell to Kyle right after leaving the command tent. Although he still had an injured left eye, he was highly focused on this surprise attack mission. After saying goodbye, he headed directly to the supply area of the temporary camp. Kyle, on the other hand, returned to his temporary tent. He was not invincible. Despite having a physique that ranked among the top soldiers, continuous warfare had taken its toll on him. Lying in an uncomfortable bed, Kyle closed his eyes to rest, but his mind entered a vast space. Card space. Like being in a dream, he found himself in a boundless white cube-shaped space, with hundreds of cards he had accumulated spinning in a hurricane-like motion. "Although tonight's surprise attack is highly certain, I can't afford to be careless. I need to find a way to enhance my own combat power." Kyle thought as his consciousness transformed and found itself in the center of the card storm, observing the cards rapidly flying past him. In these 3 days, his ability to extract cards had evidently improved further. Firstly, he gained the ability to enter the card space with his consciousness, allowing him to freely view and simulate the use of the cards he had extracted. Then, he obtained the extracting card ability called Tribute Extraction. As the name suggests, card tributing involves selecting 10 item cards of the same grade from his card space inventory and sacrificing them. There was a high probability of extracting any card of the same grade and a low probability of obtaining a card of a higher grade. A grade higher than green was a qualitative leap from white to green. Up until now, Kyle had not obtained any cards surpassing the green grade, whether they were ability cards or item cards. What would cards beyond green look like? Kyle was curious, and based on the positioning of the rare green cards he had encountered so far, if it was an ability card, it had already reached the pinnacle of professionalism. If it was an item card, it would be a valuable and precious item. Cards surpassing the green grade should fall into the realm of superpowers for ability cards and true black technology items for item cards. Regardless of which type, they would be of great help in my current situation, Kyle murmured to himself before he waved his hands to separate the ability cards and item cards within the card space. The next step was simple. Kyle kept some cards with combat value and collected most of the item cards that could be sacrificed. Finally, he tallied the results. Green item cards, 66 cards. White item cards, 389 cards. I still feel like I don't have enough to draw, but this is the result of my continuous extract ions on the battlefield over these 3 days. Kyle sighed, feeling a bit reluctant as he proceeded with the next step. Tribute extraction. You have sacrificed American rifle, iron helmet, box of rifle bullets, communicator. 10 selected white item cards disappeared from the card space, and a brand new white card appeared before him. Extraction succeeded. Congratulations, you've obtained Life Increase card. Life Increase card. Kyle's heart skipped a beat as he quickly reached out to receive the new white card and examined it. Life Increase increases the user's natural lifespan by 3 months. Rare white ability card. Current status, can be used on others. Increasing natural lifespan. Well, I guess it won't work if someone kills me. Kyle couldn't hide his disappointment when he saw the description of the card. This life increase card seemed to be different from what he had imagined. But then again, it was just a mere rare white ability card. How could it possibly have the god-level effect of resurrection? However, the fact that this ability card can be used on others is still pretty good. Perhaps higher-grade life-boosting ability cards can truly bring someone back from the dead. Kyle thought optimistically and continued with the tribute extraction while thinking, now that I've become an American, I hope I have some good luck too. Extraction succeeded. Congratulations, you've obtained gentleman's suit. A piece of clothing? What congratulations, what kind of a reward is that? Kyle's heart was bleeding, but his determination remained strong as he continued with the sacrifices. Extraction succeeded. Congratulations, you've obtained a stainless steel water bottle. This is too ordinary. Let's continue sacrificing and drawing. Extraction succeeded. Congratulations, you've obtained the basic Japanese mastery. What is this? Give me another draw. Extraction succeeded. Congratulations, you've obtained the saddle of the Warring States. This is a real loss. Such a disappointing result for sacrificing 10 white item cards. Kyle's mind was filled with frustration as he stared intently at the cards he had obtained with a bloodshot look in his eyes that resembles that of a gambler. He realized that tribute extraction had the potential to extract any card, but the range of possibilities was vast, and the results could be quite varied. However, some of the item cards were of no use to him, so it was better to try his luck with tribute extraction than to keep them with him. Extraction succeeded. Congratulations, you've obtained the bat. A bat? An animal card. Kyle was slightly surprised by this card and his gaze quickly fell on the newly appeared card. Bat. Summons a regular bat to aid you in battle. Rare white life form card. Current status. Can be continuously used. Do you wish to summon? Life form card. Kyle suddenly realized that all the cards he had directly extracted from nearby resources were either ability cards or item cards. This was the first time he had come across the third type of card. If I have a certain number of life form cards as support, wouldn't that make me a summoner? Kyle smiled and classified the bat card as a combat resource. He continued with the tribute extraction until over 300 unused white item cards were depleted. Aside from a pile of basic foreign language cards, he obtained 3 rare white life increase cards and only 2 life form cards, the bat and the Shiba Inu. Shiba Inu is a type of dog breed. After sacrificing 300 white cards, he failed to draw a single green grade card. The probability of extracting a card of a higher grade was indeed too small. Feeling helpless, Kyle shifted his gaze to the 60+ green item cards. Most of these were obtained by scavenging from the piles of dead bodies on the battlefield, and they were not easy to come by. He had only 6 chances left for tribute extraction. When a person dies, they lose everything, so why not go all in? Kyle gritted his teeth and decided to sacrifice all 60 green item cards at once. Sacrifice and draw. Extraction succeeded. Congratulations, you've obtained life increase, elegant evening dress, toxic hornet's nest, Nepalese army knife, urban parkour, and stealth. What is this? Kyle's eyes widened in astonishment as he looked at the cards he had obtained, especially one of the cards. Among the new cards, one stood out with its vibrant blue color, outshining the white and green cards within the card space. As the sun set below the horizon, the vibrant red dusk faded away, giving way to the arrival of the night. Under the cover of darkness, the German forces on the front lines continued their peaceful retreat, just as they had done in the previous days. However, inside the temporary American base, a quiet buzz of activity began to stir. Hundreds of young American soldiers dressed in battle suits stood in formation, holding their American rifles and carrying military green backpacks filled with ammunition and supplies. Due to the fact that the 5 targeted German camps were scattered in different locations, the assembly times for the 5 units were staggered. Otherwise, the temporary base would have been overrun with thousands of soldiers. Fury had already gathered his 100-man unit early on and was now explaining the important details of tonight's assault. I know that some of you are fresh recruits who have just arrived from training bases. So, pay attention and memorize the instructions I just gave. Don't slow us down tonight. On the battlefield, anyone who hesitates or disobeys orders will not be worn through a military cord. Instead, I'll simply put a hole in there for it. Fury's voice boomed as he stood alone at the front of the unit. He had shed his gentle demeanor from the command post, and now his dark face appeared stern and menacing, with his remaining right eye resembling a fierce and dominant wolf. The soldiers remained silent, not daring to make a sound. Among them, a young soldier positioned at the rear of the unit glanced around suddenly while maintaining his military stance, as if searching for someone. A nearby recruit noticed this and whispered, "George, this isn't a training base. Don't get distracted." "I know," George replied in a hushed voice. "Have you seen Kyle? He was sent to the front lines a few days ago, but it's possible he's also in this temporary base." The recruit murmured, "Kyle? He might have already been killed. No matter how exceptional his skills are, the training base and the battlefield are completely different. I hope he proves himself and survives." George clenched his fist. He ranked at the top among the recruits in terms of physical fitness and skills but was always overshadowed by Kyle's presence at the training base. "Who is it?" Fury's voice suddenly boomed, startling George. He quickly regained his composure and looked in the direction indicated, only to realize that the sergeant was not referring to him. "It's me." Emerging from the darkness of the night beyond the illuminated assembly area, a well-built individual approached the unit. As the young man's handsome face became visible under the lights, many of the new recruits couldn't help but gasp, struggling to maintain their military composure. Could it be Kyle? George's eyes widened in disbelief. With his strong sense of pride, he could never forget the young man standing before them at this moment. Within just a week, Kyle had impressed various specialized training instructors, breaking records in all individual combat exercises at the training base and surpassing the target scores for pistols, rifles, sniper rifles, and rocket launchers. Even though Kyle had been deployed to the front lines ahead of time, rumors about him still circulated within the training base. His legendary feats seemed to grow in exaggeration. Even the strictest training instructors often used Kyle as an example to admonish the new recruits. "Attention!" Fury raised his voice, and his sharp eye scanned the unit, silencing any remaining murmurs. Kyle had chosen not to carry a military backpack but instead had a rifle slung over his shoulder. He also wore a sheath for a military knife on his waist and had 2 small pistols holstered on each side of his legs, making him the lightest equipped soldier on the field. He walked directly beside Fury, coldly meeting the gaze of the assembled soldiers. As the new recruits in the unit puzzled over the situation, Fury introduced him in a serious tone. "This is Corporal Kyle, one of tonight's commanding officers. For tonight's assault mission, you must follow our commands without question." "Understood." "Understood." The soldiers responded in unison. Even if they were given 100 times the courage, they wouldn't dare to utter a single word of dissent. "Kyle, Corporal." When George saw Kyle, he was dumbfounded. Hearing Kyle's rank as a corporal, he couldn't help but lower his head in shame, afraid that Kyle would recognize him. The recruit who had just spoken with George felt a sense of being slapped in the face and muttered to himself, "I was wrong. He is a monster, indeed a monster no matter where he goes." "Is it time to depart?" Kyle asked Fury, as he had spent a considerable amount of time mastering the newly drawn cards and arrived at the designated time. "Yes, it's time to depart," Fury replied, looking down at the time displayed on his device. He waved his hand to the 100-man unit and commanded, "All soldiers, follow the military vehicles and proceed to the mission location at a jog." As soon as Fury finished speaking, he and Kyle boarded one of the idle military vehicles. The highly maneuverable vehicle quickly braked and led the way toward the wilderness outside the camp. The objective was to assault a camp, but instead of directly crossing the defensive lines, they took a roundabout route to avoid enemy reconnaissance and headed toward the mountains and forests adjacent to the wilderness. Once they reached the designated location, Fury and Kyle abandoned the military vehicle and led the 100-man unit to start climbing the mountain, navigating through the dense jungle in darkness. Without accurate information about the exact location of the German camps, such a flanking maneuver would have been futile. However, armed with intelligence, they could infiltrate deep into the enemy camp. After crossing this hill, we'll be very close to the small transit camp mentioned in the intel. Pass on the orders to the soldiers. Everyone enters a state of readiness, and if you spot enemy troops, don't alarm them. Maintain silence and await further instructions, Kyle commanded in a cold and authoritative tone. Although it was his first time leading troops, he exuded confidence and dominance in his very being. Fury, standing beside him, suddenly frowned and said, "Kyle, something doesn't feel right." Kyle looked at him in surprise. Fury illuminated the mission map with the weak light of a small flashlight and said gravely, "Take a look at the map. After crossing this mountain, the distance to the combat zone is not far, but it's too far from the German rear headquarters. This location doesn't seem suitable as a transit station for resource transport. Do you think the information message we received is false?" Kyle furrowed his brow. "It's hard to say. Let's keep moving forward and see. Even if it's false, we can safely retreat." Fury analyzed the situation before they continued leading the soldiers to climb over the mountaintop. Over hills and mountains, they went. When Kyle and Fury, at the forefront of the unit, cleared the obstructing bushes and saw the scene below, their bodies froze simultaneously. Below the slope, a circular iron fence enclosed 100 meters of barren land. Every 10 meters, there were fortress-like gun emplacements serving as outer walls. Within the iron fence, lights were scattered everywhere, and numerous German soldiers could be vaguely seen patrolling back and forth. "Oh my God, is this the small transit camp mentioned in the intel?" Fury's mouth gaped in astonishment and he was rendered speechless. "It seems that the location in the intel is correct, but the target assault camp is not what we imagined." Kyle remained calm, but he also felt the urge to curse someone at this time. This was no longer a camp, it was a full-fledged enemy base. "I now have a better understanding of the situation," Kyle remarked, his gaze fixed on the enemy base nestled below the mountain. "The intelligence we acquired from the parchment map, which reveals the location of the German camp, is accurate. However, these guys must have played a deceptive game with the coded messages." Fury pondered the conversation, deep in thought as he spoke. "So, they switched the messages regarding the camp sizes?" "Yes, that's correct," Kyle nodded. "Among the 5 enemy German camps, 1 was a large base, 3 were medium-sized camps, and the remaining 1 served as a transit station. The Germans displayed their intelligence by exchanging the coded messages between the large base and the transit station. In other words, the enemy base we're currently facing was meant to be raided by Colonel Marcos with 5 or more units, according to the plan. And the small camp that we were assigned to infiltrate is the target Colonel Marcos is heading towards," Fury stated with a bitter smile on his face. "There's no use complaining now," Kyle responded coldly. "Fury, you have more experience in on-the-spot operations than I do. In this situation, what do you think we should do?" Fury furrowed his brow, his lone eye fixed on the distant enemy base. After a moment of contemplation, he reluctantly said, "It's evident that we have to abandon the surprise attack plan. Even if we had the advantage of initiating the attack, it would be nothing short of suicide for a mere 100 troops. Kyle probed further. Can't we contact Colonel Marcos using the communication device we brought? No, Fury shook his head without hesitation, explaining, we are too close to the enemy base. At this distance, the signal can easily be intercepted by the enemy. Moreover, there isn't much time left before our forces attack the other 4 enemy camps. Once that happens, the large base here will be alerted. Kyle then remarked with a blank expression on his face, so, based on conventional judgment, we have no choice but to give up on the surprise attack plan, right? Fury, have you forgotten? We made a promise to Colonel Marcos that we would ensure the success of the surprise attack plan. But... Fury hesitated. No buts. Kyle interrupted him and continued to guide. If we relinquish the opportunity to surprise attack the large base now, it will be difficult to find such a favorable chance again once the enemy becomes vigilant. Realizing something, Fury looked at Kyle with astonishment, his face turning serious. Don't beat around the bush. Are you thinking what I think you are thinking? You can't hide anything from you. But this isn't just an idea, it's a battle plan. Kyle smiled faintly and leaned closer to Fury, whispering a few words in his ear. After hearing Kyle out, Fury stared at him as if he were looking at a madman, tremblingly saying, infiltrating the base alone? Are you crazy? Or do you want to get yourself killed? Kyle shrugged and said resolutely, I'm not crazy. Given the current situation, the only way to accomplish the surprise attack plan is to take this risky attempt. If I can infiltrate the enemy base, disrupt their defense mechanisms from within, and then have the 100-person unit launch an attack from the outside, there is still a certain probability of success. It's not that simple to infiltrate such a large base, Fury stated, shaking his head. That's my concern. I just need your approval and support, Kyle responded firmly. Fury fell silent, his lone eye fixed on Kyle for a while, before speaking slowly but forcefully, to be honest, I have no reason to dissuade you from doing this. After all, no one wants to give up on the plan before it even starts. So, you can go ahead and give it a try. But let me make it clear beforehand, if you fail, I will immediately withdraw with the troops and leave you here. Don't worry, I would never risk someone else's life for my own. With these words, Kyle threw caution to the wind and swiftly dashed forward, gaining momentum as he descended the slope until he vanished into the darkness below the mountain. This guy is crazy, Fury sighed. Heading directly to the large base as a lone soldier was undoubtedly suicidal behavior. However, for some reason, Kyle emanated an unwavering confidence that intrigued Fury. Perhaps it was precisely because of that enigmatic aura that Fury chose to agree to this highly perilous and almost suicidal method of operation. After leaving the team, Kyle retreated into the jungle at the foot of the mountain, where he removed his American battlesuit. From the card space, he selected a suitable German soldier's combat uniform and swiftly put it on. Proposing to infiltrate the enemy base alone, Kyle wasn't intending to throw his life away. Instead, he possessed enough confidence to ensure his own safety. This confidence comes from the blue card he obtained during the tribute extraction today. Stealth. You become one with the shadows, you became a Nightwalker, you eliminate your own presence and reduce your visibility. While in the Nightwalker state, enemies cannot see you outside a certain visual range, 10 meters. Within 10 meters, they can only see a translucent figure, and within 5 meters, they have a normal line of sight. During the night, the Nightwalker provides night vision within 100 meters, doubling the stealth effect and increasing movement speed. Note, after initiating an attack, the stealth state will be lifted and cannot be entered for 10 seconds. Nightwalker can perform a forced instant teleportation for a range of 1 kilometer. The ability has a cooldown of 24 hours. Blue ability card. This is a blue quality ability card. As expected, it belongs to the category of superpowers, surpassing the level of expertise or mastery that only some rare people can achieve. With the stealth card, Kyle's individual combat capabilities are no longer bound by human abilities. Stealth mode engaged. Kyle silently recited in his mind as his eyes transformed into a dark crimson color, allowing him to see clearly within 100 meters in the darkness. Simultaneously, his body seemed enveloped in a mist, appearing elusive in the night. In Nightwalker state, carrying a military knife, Kyle jogged towards the enemy base about half a mile away, entering stealth mode, with even the sound of his boots landing on the ground barely audible. Safely approaching the vicinity of the enemy base, Kyle suddenly stopped his pace and observed from a distance of 50 meters. Rows of bright lights hung on the iron wire fence, and once a figure was exposed under the lights, the amplification of the stealth invisibility would be greatly weakened. Kyle was contemplating how to infiltrate the base when suddenly, from 100 meters behind him, two beams of light slightly illuminated the night sky, and a German military vehicle slowly approached the main gate of the base. A supply truck. Kyle's mind stirred, and he continued to move stealthily toward the direction of the military vehicle. Tap, tap, tap. Faint and frequent footsteps quietly resonated in the deserted plain. Kyle stealthily approached the front side of the military vehicle, watching as the front of the vehicle was about to collide with him. He made a direct sprint, exposing himself a step ahead. Whoa! The German soldier, who was the driver, was dozing off, and his entire body jolted with fear as he saw a figure rushing out of nowhere. He instinctively slammed on the brakes. With his mouth agape, he couldn't utter a word before a flash of the knife from outside the window struck, instantly silencing his words and ending his life. Stealth, assassination, and disposing of the body, the whole process flowed seamlessly, and it looked as if Kyle had done it thousands of times. The military vehicle came to a stop, its engine turned off. Kyle coldly tossed the German soldier's body, with a cut throat, out of the driver's seat. It was somewhat reminiscent of looting equipment in an online game. The body on the ground revealed several item cards in the extractable state. German soldier ID card, German soldier combat suit, German pistol. After a while, the military vehicle restarted and continued its journey toward the front gate of the German base. Kyle's heart raced with anticipation as he approached the enemy base, his Nightwalker abilities granting him an unprecedented advantage in stealth and infiltration. With each step, he focused on the task at hand, determined to disrupt the enemy's defenses from within. At a sprawling military base situated in Germany, security was of paramount importance, evident in the formidable 3-meter-high iron mesh encircling the compound. The base was akin to a well-guarded fortress, except for its main entrance, which lacked the reinforced protection and instead was manned by nearly 30 well-equipped German soldiers. As the night wore on, fatigue began to take its toll on some of the guards. In this momentary lapse, the distinct sound of an engine reverberated through the air as a German military vehicle gradually approached the main gate from a distance. Halt! Stop! Despite recognizing the vehicle as their own, the guards dutifully halted the military transport at the main gate and detained it for inspection. What's the situation? Accompanied by a group of armed soldiers, a German captain strode forward and knocked on the car window of the military vehicle. The window was swiftly rolled down, and the driver, donning a flat cap, presented his soldier's identification through the opening. In a weary and hoarse tone, he responded in German, military supplies. Standard procedure. The German captain waved his hand, prompting 3 or 4 soldiers to approach and inspect the contents of the vehicle's rear compartment. Within a matter of seconds, the soldiers returned with a hint of fluster and whispered a few words into the German captain's ear as they drew nearer. Sensing the German captain's gaze fixating on him, Kyle, skillfully disguised as the driver, raised an eyebrow and instinctively lowered the brim of his hat, casting a shadow over his youthful face. Have I been exposed? Maintaining an impassive expression, Kyle's body tensed as he prepared to utilize his covered ability of instantaneous movement should the German guard discern his true identity. The German captain motioned for the inspecting soldiers to step back and approach the vehicle window alone. Remaining alert, Kyle watched intently as the German captain's serious countenance suddenly transformed into a smile. Cheerfully, he retrieved the rolled-up cigarette from his pocket and extended it towards Kyle, remarking, "My friend, it's tough for you to be running errands for the officer at such a late hour." Kyle naturally accepted the cigarette, his demeanor composed as he replied, "No problem, it's what I'm here for." "Very well, let him through." The German captain bellowed, and the barrier at the main gate swiftly opened. Kyle wasted no time in revving the engine, and the military vehicle surged forward into the base. The interior of the expansive base surpassed the atmosphere of a temporary combat zone, especially considering the stringent military discipline characteristic of the renowned German establishment. Wide lanes capable of accommodating two vehicles side by side were flanked by various wooden or tented camp structures on both sides. Even within the base, there were regular intervals of illuminating lights, and patrols consisting of 6 German soldiers crisscrossed the area. With his peripheral vision, Kyle quickly surveyed the distribution of the patrol teams as he maneuvered the vehicle deeper into the base, eventually arriving at the designated area where numerous vehicles were parked, serving as a storage hub for supplies. The supply garage appeared deserted and shrouded in silence, devoid of any human presence. Capitalizing on this opportunity, Kyle switched off the engine and brought the vehicle to a halt. Rather than immediately activating his stealth mode, he proceeded directly toward the rear compartment of the vehicle. "I was careless earlier. I forgot to ascertain the nature of the stolen military vehicle's cargo. And the fact that the base's guard, the German captain, commended a mere driver like me by offering a cigarette." Kyle muttered to himself, deep in thought. Discreetly concealed in his right hand, he held the military knife, transformed into a card, while his other hand disengaged the latch securing the iron door of the rear compartment. Squeak. As the rear compartment's iron door swung open, a faint sobbing sound echoed from within. "What is this?" Kyle frowned, and with a graceful leap, he entered the rear compartment. The darkness gradually gave way to clarity, revealing a young girl the supposed military supplies. She was a young Caucasian girl, appearing to be approximately 16 years old. Her lustrous golden curls were damp with sweat, and even in the dim light, her delicate doll-like face exuded a breathtaking beauty. Clad in a thin white dress, her tender figure exuded an innate elegance. However, she was tightly bound with military-grade ropes, her mouth sealed shut with adhesive tape, and she lay curled up within a spacious wooden crate. Attached to the wooden crate was a white paper tag bearing a German inscription, "European materials collected. Received by Commander Leo." These savages. Witnessing this heart-wrenching sight, Kyle clenched his teeth, an unquenchable flame of anger surging within him. Kyle had never despised war, but the despicable act of invading lands, plundering homes, and snatching young girls as commodities always repulsed him. It was an evil that he couldn't stand. Inside the cramped box, the golden-haired girl trembled with fear, her tear-filled blue eyes scanning the figure that entered. With her mouth sealed shut by tape, all she could manage were muffled sounds of struggle. "Adana." "Don't be afraid," Kyle approached gently, trying to reassure her, but the girl's panic only intensified, her fear reaching new heights. Suddenly, realization dawned on Kyle, and a bitter smile crossed his face. Switching back to fluent English, he spoke, "Don't worry. I'm an American soldier, and I won't harm you." Realizing that his words alone weren't enough to ease her worries, Kyle decided to reveal more of himself. He removed his hat, unveiling his young and handsome European face. Finally, the girl began to find solace in his presence. Indeed, appearances still held power regardless of the era. "Stay silent. I will set you free," Kyle declared as he picked up the military knife and swiftly cut the ropes that bound a girl. With a gentle hand, he removed the adhesive tape, freeing her mouth. Overwhelmed with relief, The golden-haired girl couldn't help but cling to his waist, weakly sobbing. "You're safe now," Kyle whispered, a warm smile gracing his face as he affectionately stroked her beautiful golden locks. Suddenly, a voice in German broke the silence from outside the vehicle, asking, "Who's in there?" The girl in Kyle's arms froze, her trembling intensifying. "Stay quiet. I'll handle them," Kyle whispered back, his expression quickly shifting from warmth to indifference as cold determination gleamed in his eyes. In a hoarse voice, he responded in German, "I'm Bern. There are supplies in the vehicle to be delivered to Commander Leo. Can you come and help carry them?" "Understood," the German captain of the patrol team outside the vehicle replied without suspicion. Accompanied by 5 soldiers, he approached the rear compartment of the military vehicle. The German captain and 2 soldiers from the patrol team entered the rear compartment first. As their flashlights pierced the darkness, they were met with the sight of the golden-haired girl curled up in fear inside the box. "Hey!" Confusion laced the German captain's voice, but before he could finish his sentence, a figure suddenly dropped down from the compartment ceiling. Piyuchi. In the darkness, the military knife sliced through the air with deadly precision. Swift and sharp, it swiftly dispatched the 3 soldiers on top of the compartment, painting the space with warm, crimson blood. Kyle's actions were swift and precise, taking the lives of the 3 soldiers on the vehicle without hesitation. Like a ferocious cheetah, he lunged toward the remaining 3 soldiers outside the vehicle. Within a span of 4 to 5 meters, propelled by his superior physical abilities, it took him less than half a second to reach such distance. Kyle's hand rose, and the knife fell. The 4th German soldier's head flew high as the sharp military blade, coupled with his formidable strength, severed the soldier's neck and spine in a single strike. The 2 remaining German soldiers reacted sluggishly as their bodies were paralyzed by extreme fear. They yearned to retaliate, to shout, to flee, but it remained within the realm of unattainable wishes. In the next moment, their desires were shattered. Kyle plunged his military knife into the heart of one soldier, while his other hand clamped down on the last soldier's neck, pressing him forcefully to the ground. "Die!" The 2 soldiers struggled briefly, their vitality slipping away as their bodies turned into lifeless corpses, becoming mere remnants in Kyle's hands. Tick-tick. The thick, viscous blood oozed from the slightly curved blade of the military knife, staining the ground as the lifeless bodies of 6 German soldiers fell from the rear compartment of the vehicle. Kyle's heart raced with excitement, adrenaline pumping through his veins, and sweat cascading down his forehead. Every ounce of his robust physique and honed combat skills had been put to use during those fleeting 5 seconds of lethal efficiency. Not a single German soldier had been given the chance to raise the alarm and alert their comrades in the base. Kyle couldn't afford to relax just yet. He swiftly surveyed his surroundings, ensuring that he hadn't inadvertently alerted any other nearby soldiers. Taking a moment to wipe the blood off the military knife with the clothing of one of the fallen soldiers, he carefully sheathed the blade and secured it back to his waist. Without wasting a second, Kyle carried the bodies of the 3 soldiers outside the car, discreetly placing them in the rear compartment. As he did so, the young girl he had rescued peered out from the wooden crate, her eyes wide with astonishment as she took in the sight of the 6 lifeless bodies before her. The girl who felt fear moments ago was now in awe. She looked at Kyle, unscathed despite the grisly scene, and found herself filled with gratitude and wonder. German soldiers known for their formidable combat gear and unwavering military discipline were often perceived as unstoppable killing machines by civilians. Yet, these 6 powerful soldiers had been swiftly dispatched by a young man's blade, without a chance to call for help. It was an extraordinary feat that few would believe if they hadn't witnessed it with their own eyes. The girl mustered her courage and spoke softly to Kyle. "Thank you." Kyle shrugged, still catching his breath. "It's too early to thank me. We're still deep inside a heavily guarded German base." "Huh?" The girl looked slightly bewildered, struggling to grasp the gravity of their situation. I don't have time to explain this to you right now. Just stay hidden here, don't make a sound, and I'll come back to rescue you later." With those words, Kyle swiftly left the compartment and sealed the iron door at the rear of the car. Though it wasn't an ideal situation to keep a delicate girl in close proximity to 6 lifeless bodies, there was no time to address that concern now. Having already spent considerable time infiltrating the base, Kyle was acutely aware that he had approximately 20 minutes left until the planned attack on the mission. Even if their unit didn't initiate the operation, the other 4 units would commence their assaults on enemy camps in 4 different locations. Once that happened, the large base he was in would be on high alert, rendering his surprise attack futile. Stealth mode on. Gripping his military knife tightly, Kyle activated his Nightwalker ability, silently making his way deeper into the base. Every step was cautious, his senses attuned to the darkness that enveloped him. Step, step, step. He moved with precision, evading a passing patrol team by a mere 5 meters without arousing suspicion. Though the base had sporadic lighting fixtures and stationed patrols at regular intervals, it wasn't brightly lit nor overflowing with troops. This allowed enough room for darkness to be his ally as he maneuvered through the base, silently and undetected. In the cover of darkness, Kyle relied on his keen perception of his surroundings, accurately gauging distances, and leveraging his stealth. It was more effective than mere invisibility, granting him the ability to navigate the base unnoticed. Kyle continued his stealthy journey, eventually halting at a corner in front of a wooden house. This particular house stood out from the others, as it was heavily guarded by multiple patrol teams, with a soldier stationed at the entrance. Could this be the officers' rest area? Or perhaps the command center? Kyle pondered, intrigued by the heightened security measures. To his surprise, the door of the house was unlocked and was slightly ajar. If he could eliminate the base's commander first, his lone infiltration mission would be halfway accomplished. The question remained, how could he gain entry to the house undetected? Frowning, Kyle suddenly recalled something, a realization that brought a mischievous smile to his lips. Standing before the spacious house, the guard on duty remained vigilant, resembling a tall poplar tree. His weapon was firmly held in his hand, his gaze scanning the surroundings. Even within their own base, there was no room for negligence when it came to guarding the items stored inside this house. The officers ensured that stringent protection measures were in place. "Just 1 more hour and someone will take over my post," the guard mused to himself when, out of nowhere, a dark life form descended from above. It fluttered its wings and struck the guard's face. A bat. Startled, the guard instinctively reached out to catch it. However, this bat was anything but ordinary. It displayed a ferocious aggression, sinking its teeth just below the guard's eye and refusing to let go. "Get the fuck off!" The guard winced in pain, his eyes tightly shut, as he stumbled backward and collided with the door. With anger burning in his veins, he reached out with both hands, desperately grasping at the bat. Seizing the opportunity created by the guard's momentary lapse in defense, a figure blurred past the guard's side and swiftly crossed the threshold of the house. What in the world is happening? A patrol team arrived promptly, drawn by the commotion. Their eyes widened as they witnessed the guard angrily hurling the lifeless bat to the ground and spitting on it. "Bah, it's nothing. Just a bat." The members of the patrol team exchanged bewildered glances, finding the scene before them rather comical. The door to the house closed behind the guard, and from the darkness inside, a distinct human figure emerged. It was Kyle, still concealed by his stealth mode. "The life form card is even more practical than I had initially anticipated," Kyle muttered to himself. The white life form card had proven to be remarkably effective in this situation. This was primarily due to one of the inherent characteristics of the life form card: obedience. The life form summoned from the life form card dutifully followed their owner's commands, which greatly minimized the risk of accidents, transforming it into a truly formidable life form weapon. "All right, Now let's see what this place is all about. Kyle's gaze fell upon the house's hallway. From the moment he stepped inside, he sensed that it wasn't a command center or a mere resting area. The layout seemed to resemble that of a storage warehouse for supplies. Within the expansive house, rows of densely packed shelves stood, housing boxes of various sizes, stacked atop one another. Without needing to open the boxes for inspection, as Kyle focused his attention, a series of messages from extractable item cards appeared on each box. German rifle, rifle bullets, anti-infantry jumping mine, detonator grenades. An armory. Kyle's eyes gleamed with excitement. This discovery held far greater significance than locating the command center. Uncovering the armory meant gaining control over the lifeblood of this sprawling base. Stepping further into the house, Kyle began extracting weapons and equipment from the armory at a rapid pace, retrieving one item every 3 seconds. His relentless search continued until he reached the innermost part of the house. Suddenly, he halted in his tracks, squatting down on the floor and tapping it lightly with his fingers, producing a subtle hollow sound. A hidden basement beneath the armory. A faint smile curved on Kyle's lips. Such a rudimentary trick could not deceive him. Swiftly identifying the floor panel that concealed the entrance to the basement, he descended the stairs. However, contrary to his expectation of encountering total darkness, the underground chamber emanated a mysterious blue glow. As Kyle fully entered the basement, his attention was immediately drawn to a box-shaped energy source radiating a luminous blue hue. The sheer power exuding from it permeated the air, creating an unmistakable presence. Tesseract's energy. The power derived from the cube could furnish tanks and guns with astonishingly destructive force, an energy of infinite potential nestled within the realm of abstract concepts. Blue item card. Do you want to extract it? The above is the card message displayed by the block-shaped blue energy entity. Oh my! The card's message shimmered in blue, catching Kyle's attention. His face contorted with astonishment, a rare crack in his typically composed demeanor. He had never anticipated stumbling upon a god-tier artifact from the Marvel world so swiftly. The Tesseract. A bona fide god-level item, it had once served as the receptacle for the Space Stone, one of the 6 Infinity Stones, a tool of cosmic magnitude. Indeed, during World War II, the Hydra organization stumbled upon the Tesseract and harnessed its limitless energy for warfare. Kyle mused aloud, his gaze fixed upon the enigmatic energy cube before him. A sense of trepidation washed over him, and a cold sweat broke on his brow, both for himself and the makeshift U.S. military unit stationed in the combat zone. To this day, such energy remained absent from the front lines. It was evidently a recent creation by the German forces, as yet untested in an official capacity. Unbeknownst to an unsuspecting world, the sudden introduction of energy-boosted German forces into the theater of war could result in catastrophic consequences for the European front lines. Yet, serendipitously, the present circumstance played to Kyle's advantage. Eyes glinting with excitement, he picked up one of the energy cubes. Each of these possessed the potential to serve as a blue item card attribute worthy of extraction. There should be at least 20 of these in this crate, right? Kyle pondered, on the verge of embarking on a card-drawing spree. However, a faint sound reached his ears from behind, causing his expression to shift abruptly. Before he could react, a cold metallic object collided with the back of his head. Don't move. If you make a move, I'll blow your head off. The men behind him, holding a gun, spoke in German. With a click of mechanical sound, he had already released the safety on his pistol. Carelessness. Kyle tensed up his body and sighed inwardly. He never expected that he would let his guard down while drawing cards, and he never expected that there were people hiding in this underground basement. Put down what's in your hands and raise your hands. The gunman continued with a commanding and forceful tone. Don't shoot, Kyle said as he put the energy cube back into the box and raised his hands. In this life-or-death situation, Kyle remained calm and pondered his options. The simplest way would be to directly use stealth to forcibly teleport out of the enemy base. However, that was the last resort, to be used only if absolutely necessary. Very good. I didn't expect you to speak German. You truly are an American rat that managed to infiltrate my base, the gunman said coldly, without any immediate intention of shooting. This made Kyle dismiss the idea of forced teleportation. What were you hoping to accomplish by infiltrating this place? The gunman persisted, but this time Kyle remained silent, refusing to provide an answer. I'll find a way to loosen that tongue of yours, the gunman sneered, maintaining the firm pressure of his pistol against Kyle's head. In his other hand, he retrieved the walkie-talkie. Hello, this is Commander Leo. Dispatch soldiers to Warehouse No. 2's basement immediately. We have an American rat in our midst. So this guy is Commander Leo, the one who was provided with girls in the name of resources. He must also be the highest-ranking commander of this large base. Kyle still stood motionless with his hands raised, but at some point, a card had silently materialized between his fingers. Commander Leo. Before the man behind him finished his conversation, Kyle suddenly spoke in a cold tone. Do you know a saying from my hometown? Commander Leo slightly paused, hung up the walkie-talkie, and asked coldly, what saying? His pistol was pressed tightly against the back of Kyle's head. As soon as there was any movement, he would immediately pull the trigger. Kyle replied softly, that saying is, villains die due to being talkative. Villain. Commander Leo's brow furrowed, perplexed by the meaning behind Kyle's words, when suddenly, an evil dog emerged from the nearby darkness. Its menacing teeth glistened with a cold, sinister light as it swiftly clamped down on his wrist, still gripping the gun. Evil dog, summon a vicious evil dog infected with rabies to fight for you. Green life form card. Now. Commander Leo cried out in pain as he fell to the ground. The evil dog appeared to be a large dog resembling a Tibetan Mastiff, with green glints in its eyes. Its incredibly strong bite tore a large piece of flesh from his wrist, exposing bone. Tonight, I'm the hero, and you, of course, are the villain. A smile curved on Kyle's lips as he gently caressed the fluffy fur of the evil dog. Please, I beg you. Don't kill me. Even if you kill me, you won't be able to leave this place alive. Under the intense desire to survive, Commander Leo, who had previously displayed a stern and ruthless demeanor, pleaded for mercy. Don't worry, I won't kill you, Kyle said with a smile. Before joy could appear on Commander Leo's face, the next words drained the color from his face. The thing I hate the most is when people put a gun to my head. So, I'll use you to feed the dog. As soon as the words left Kyle's mouth, as if attuned to his command, the nearby evil dog emitted a savage roar and lunged forward, sinking its teeth into Commander Leo's neck. Unperturbed by the agonized screams of his adversary or the gruesome sight of the evil dog feasting on flesh, Kyle proceeded to extract the energy cubes scattered throughout the basement. Even at the rate of drawing one card every 3 seconds, it would still take over a minute to extract more than 20 energy cubes. By the time the German soldiers within the base received the communication call, alerting them to the presence of an intruder, they should already be converging upon Kyle's location. 1 minute from now, the base's defense mechanisms must be compromised, and I must break through the enemy's ranks to make my escape. Time is of the essence, Kyle muttered to himself, his eyebrow raised in determination as he continued extracting the energy item cards. Simultaneously, he retrieved another life form card from his card space. Toxic Hornet's Nest. Summon a beehive housing hundreds of venomous hornets. These deadly insects can inflict fatal injuries within half an hour. Rare green item card. Current status, one-time summon, lasts for half an hour. Will you use it? Now is your time to shine, Kyle murmured meaningfully, his gaze fixed upon the card. Meanwhile, In the forested area adjacent to the sprawling base, hundreds of American soldiers lay in wait, their expressions grave. Sergeant Fury, their steadfast leader, couldn't help clenching his fist in mounting apprehension as they awaited a certain occurrence. Sergeant Fury, the designated raid time is drawing near. What should we do? George inquired anxiously. Wait a little longer, Fury replied in a deep voice, uncertain of the exact event they were anticipating. Perhaps Kyle had not yet successfully infiltrated the base and had met an untimely demise. Even if Kyle had managed to infiltrate the base, how could he, with his individual capabilities, dismantle the defense mechanisms comprising thousands of soldiers and advanced equipment? Give it another 5 minutes. If there is no sign of activity from the large base within that time frame, we will abort the raid mission and retreat immediately. Fury took a deep breath. Just as he uttered those words, exclamations erupted from several soldiers nearby. Sergeant Fury. It appears that there is a movement within the enemy's stronghold. At the entrance of warehouse number 2 in the German military base. A multitude of nearly 100 German soldiers, armed with top-notch German rifles, stood in solemn formation in the expansive space before the warehouse. The commotion attracted additional patrolling soldiers, who quickly gathered around. Captain Leo is unresponsive on the radio. Repeat, unable to establish contact with Captain Leo. Sir, should we forcefully enter the warehouse and conduct a search? Absolutely. There's likely only one person on the other side, and they have no grounds to intimidate us on our own territory. But proceed with caution. The warehouse contains highly flammable and dangerous ammunition. Let's avoid any mishaps. If you encounter the enemy, subdue them with bayonets first. After the officer in charge of base patrols finished his instructions, he waved his hand, signaling the 2 soldiers closest to the warehouse door to open it. With deliberate care, the soldiers gradually pushed open the warehouse door, revealing an abyss of darkness within. Several patrol teams swiftly entered, their weapons at the ready, their helmet lights piercing the gloom, scanning every direction. Step, step, step. As the sound of footsteps reverberated from above, Kyle knew that the enemy soldiers had already infiltrated the ammunition warehouse. Coincidentally, he had just converted the final energy cube in the box into a card. A total of 25 energy cubes, equivalent to 25 blue item cards, were now in his possession. Now it's time to make our escape. Kyle remained composed, casting a glance at the decaying flesh that was once the enemy commander and transforming the nearby evil dog, whose tongue dangled, back into a card. The dog wouldn't serve its purpose in the upcoming situation. Generally, life form cards could be reused, with the exception of special ones like the toxic hornet's nest. This significantly enhanced the value of life form cards. I wonder what kind of life form cards are available in higher qualities than green. Could I draw monster cards from otherworldly creatures, like King Kong or Godzilla? A whimsical thought fleetingly crossed Kyle's mind, only to be dismissed promptly as he focused on leaving the basement. Little did he know that this fantastical idea would soon manifest into reality in the not-so-distant future. At that moment, a substantial number of German soldiers had completed their search of the upper levels of warehouse number 2 and redirected their attention to the final underground passage. Throw a smoke bomb inside. A soldier held a smoke bomb, ready to hurl it, while another positioned his hand at the entrance to the hidden door leading to the basement. Just as they opened the door to the basement, preparing to toss the smoke bomb, a billowing cloud of black mist billowed forth, causing the smoke bomb to tumble outside the basement. Cough, what the hell is this? One of the German soldiers coughed and aimed his flashlight at the swirling black mist. As the patrol team caught sight of the objects before them, their scalps tingled, and their faces blanched in terror. It was no ordinary black mist. It consisted of hundreds of dark brown hornets, each larger than a marble, densely congregated together. Hornets. Poisonous hornets inside. Oh my God. Run. Get out of here! Panic swept through the German soldiers within the warehouse as they desperately fled, hoping they hadn't disturbed the hornets. However, once the venomous insects escaped the basement, they relentlessly pursued the soldiers, launching attacks on their unprotected faces with their venomous stingers. Within moments, dozens of soldiers broke down and sprinted out of the warehouse. Many of those stung writhed in agony on the ground, clutching their faces and emitting anguished wails. Emerging from the basement behind the swarm of hornets, Kyle witnessed the chaotic scene. He muttered softly to himself, "Just a rare green life form card, yet it proves to be incredibly formidable. Nevertheless, it's time to fulfill the raid mission. I don't have the luxury of playing with all of you. I must escape this place swiftly." Disregarding the German soldiers, Kyle gripped the Nepalese military knife tightly and swiftly vanished into the abyss of darkness. Kyle, in his nightcrawler state, capitalized on the pandemonium unfolding within and outside warehouse number 2, deftly navigating between the swarming hornets and disoriented soldiers as he stealthily made his way back to the parked military vehicle. With the central area of the base consumed by the lively spectacle, patrol teams were scarce in the outer parking lot, allowing Kyle to move swiftly and undetected as he returned to the spot where he had commandeered the enemy's vehicle. Pushing open the rear compartment's iron door, he was greeted by the sight of 6 lifeless bodies. Hastily, he leaped into the rear compartment and, to his immense relief, discovered the slumbering girl within the wooden crate. Finally, he could exhale a sigh of relief. "Wake up! We need to leave. Get up quickly." Kyle nudged her, but the girl remained unresponsive, her fragile form limp and unyielding. Could she be dead? Pressing his finger against her nostrils, Kyle detected a faint breath, confirming her survival, albeit in an unconscious state due to her weakened condition. However, transporting an unconscious and injured person in her current state would only amplify the danger they faced. After a brief moment of hesitation, Kyle gritted his teeth and made his decision. "Consider yourself fortunate to have crossed paths with me. Since I promised to get you out of here, then." He carefully hoisted the girl onto his back, improvising with ropes to securely fasten her to him. Her body was delicate and supple, akin to a luxurious quilt. "This weight is lighter than a package," Kyle murmured as he carried the girl, then turned around and departed from the blood-tinged rear compartment of the vehicle. However, just as he reached the edge of the rear compartment, he swiftly recoiled, shutting the iron door behind him. Vang! 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 In an instant, the iron door of the vehicle's rear compartment was riddled with bullet holes. Pressed against the iron wall of the compartment, Kyle furrowed his brow. It appeared that unexpectedly, there were 3 or 4 patrol teams outside the vehicle, exemplifying the German soldiers' combat prowess. "I cannot allow myself to be trapped here," Kyle thought urgently, quickly grabbing one of the corpses inside the vehicle and using his foot to forcefully kick the iron door halfway open. Then, summoning all his strength, he hurled the lifeless body out. Vang! 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 Mistaking the corpse for an escaping enemy, the German soldiers unleashed a barrage of intense gunfire, reducing the body to a mangled mass of flesh and bone in mid-air. And this was only the beginning. Shortly after, the second corpse was flung out, drawing the concentrated fire of the German soldiers once again. Without affording the German soldiers the opportunity to reload their ammunition, Kyle swiftly discarded the third corpse. The bullets that struck the third corpse noticeably diminished by half. As the body descended toward the ground, a figure suddenly burst forth from behind it, sprinting in the opposite direction. It was Kyle. By exploiting the first 2 corpses to deplete the enemy's ammunition and employing the third corpse as a makeshift shield, Kyle skillfully transitioned from a perilous hail of gunfire to a momentary respite while the enemy soldiers scrambled to reload their magazines. Step. With relentless speed, Kyle raced forward, his burden secured on his back, maneuvering through a maze of parked military vehicles as he sprinted towards the iron fence on the edge of the base. Don't let him escape. Chase him. A relentless pursuit of over 20 German soldiers trailed behind, firing their guns as a storm of bullets descended upon the vehicles that served as temporary cover. Thanks to Kyle's well-built physique, enhanced by an array of physical ability cards, and the small size of the girl he carried, it seemed as if he had a doll-like backpack, posing no hindrance to his movements. Darting past a barrage of bullets, Kyle crouched behind a civilian off-road vehicle. At that very moment, the girl on his back emitted a soft hum sound, rousing from her previous state of unconsciousness. What's happening? The girl opened her eyes, immediately sensing that something was amiss. Bound by ropes once more, she found herself tethered to a muscular man, clinging to his back like an octopus. "You're awake," Kyle replied, panting and feeling a sharp pang in his left shoulder. Under the strain of relentless combat, his body glistened with sweat, and his battlesuit had grown damp with perspiration, allowing both of them to feel each other's body heat. "What do we do now?" The girl's face flushed as she recognized Kyle and asked in a feeble voice. "We're escaping," Kyle responded, his left shoulder throbbing as he gingerly touched the wound. Warm, viscous liquid seeped through his battlesuit, staining his palm crimson. "You're injured," the girl exclaimed with a surprised expression etched on her face. "It's just a minor injury," Kyle replied in a hushed tone. He had likely been hit when he broke through the rear compartment of the vehicle earlier, but due to his body being in a tightly stretched state of excitement, he hadn't noticed it. "What should we do now?" The girl's voice trembled with a hint of tears, as she finally realized the danger they were in. "Don't worry, I made a promise to save you, and I don't intend to break it." Kyle looked up behind him, estimating the distance to warehouse number 2. Several bullets whizzed past him, creating sparks as they hit the nearby vehicles. Kyle suddenly smiled. "We should be far enough from the center of the base now. We're in this situation, and you're still laughing." The girl bit her lip in frustration, her delicate hands firmly pressing against Kyle's wounded left shoulder, preventing the blood from flowing out. "Don't worry, with my body, it won't be." Before Kyle could finish his sentence, he suddenly became aware of something and quickly lunged sideways. The next moment, the spot where he had been standing was blasted black by a hand grenade, obliterating half of the vehicle's rear end. "It seems they're getting angry. They're willing to destroy the base's military vehicles and supplies just to kill us." Kyle calmly assessed the situation. Despite his injury, it hadn't hampered his mobility. With nimble and astute maneuvers, he utilized the military vehicles as cover, evading successive volleys of gunfire, and continuing their breakout. Kyle chuckled suddenly. "We should be far enough from the center of the base by now." "Once again, why are you laughing in this situation?" The girl's voice trembled with a hint of reproach as she bit her lip. Her fragile hands maintained their firm pressure against Kyle's wounded left shoulder, staunching the blood flow. "Have you ever seen fireworks?" Kyle asked, his words puzzlingly cryptic. "Huh?" Confusion etched across the girl's face. She watched as Kyle's right hand delved into his pocket, retrieving an object resembling a remote control. "This is the grand fireworks display that unfolds amidst war," Kyle concluded, pressing the button on the remote control in his hand. Simultaneously, outside the entrance of warehouse number 2 within the German military base, scores of German soldiers had congregated, creating a chaotic scene of scattered corpses, smoke grenades, discarded firearms, helmets, and other debris. The aftermath of their confrontation with the Hornets and the American infiltrators painted a grim picture. Our commander, Leo, was discovered dead in the warehouse's basement. No trace of the intruders has been found. Several soldiers emerged from warehouse number 2, reporting the situation. The officers exchanged bewildered glances, struggling to comprehend how their base had been invaded and subjected to significant damage without their awareness. "Damn it! Reinforce our troops and conduct a thorough search of the entire base." the second-in-command of the space barked in frustration. At that moment, a panicked soldier burst out of warehouse number 2, shouting, "Run! Run for your lives!" "What's happening now?" the officers demanded in unison. "They planted a timed bomb inside." Before the soldier could finish his sentence, something occurred. And there was no continuation. The timed bomb corresponding to the remote control will activate immediately under the remote control. That timed bomb was set up by Kyle as soon as he infiltrated the warehouse. It wasn't a powerful bomb, but its blast radius was enough to engulf the size of the entire building. And that building happened to be an ammunition storage warehouse. Boom! A deafening explosion reverberated, followed by a cascading series of blasts that merged together, each eruption intensifying the explosive force. From Kyle's perspective on the outskirts of the large base, the dazzling burst of flames instantly enveloped the central area of the base. The dust wave generated rose outward at a visible speed. Kyle, carrying the girl, quickly dove under a vehicle. A gust of airwaves roared, painfully vibrating his eardrums, and the vehicle's window glass shattered from the flying debris. When the dust settled, Kyle climbed up from under the wrecked vehicle. Along with the girl, he looked towards the rear, only to see the central area of the base flattened, engulfed in roaring flames that turned the night sky crimson. The grand fireworks unfurling amidst the chaos of war truly lived up to their name. The German soldiers, who had been relentlessly pursuing Kyle, stood in stunned disbelief. Some sank to their knees, their mournful cries merging with the chaos that surrounded them. "Let's seize this opportunity. Let's go." Kyle drew deep breaths, lifting the girl as he took tentative steps forward. Yet, he stumbled, nearly collapsing to the ground. His strength began to fade, his physical functions declining, and his consciousness and vision gradually blurred. "What's wrong with you?" the girl asked worriedly. In her eyes, considering the amount of blood Kyle had lost after being shot, it was already incredible that he had lasted this long. "I'm fine," Kyle replied, biting his tongue to stimulate his nerves, trying to regain his composure as he slowly moved towards the barbed wire fence 10 meters away. "Damn it, they're over there. Avenge our comrades. We can't let him get away." From a short distance behind, the surviving German soldiers cursed and shouted, continuing their pursuit of Kyle and the girl. "If we continue like this, they will catch up to us. Untie me, let me go and stall them," the girl insisted, determination in her voice as she made up her mind. "Enough of that nonsense. With your petite frame, you wouldn't even delay them for half a second," Kyle said with a bitter smile, contemplating their current predicament. If it came down to life and death, he would have to abandon the girl and employ his stealthy teleportation to secure his escape. But was it truly a matter of life and death at this moment? Kyle sighed. His condition was deteriorating rapidly, and without prompt medical attention, his life could be in jeopardy. In that case, Kyle was about to suggest something when a large group of familiar figures suddenly materialized ahead, causing his eyes to widen. "This is... Target the ones in the front and eliminate the rest. Kill them all," the African-American leader of the group coldly commanded. Da-da-da. The sound of dense gunfire filled the air, yet every shot missed Kyle's body, instead finding their mark on the German soldiers who pursued him from behind. Despite their numerical disadvantage, the group of German soldiers was swiftly eradicated. "You finally arrived, Fury." Kyle breathed a sigh of relief the moment he saw Fury appear. He knew the life-threatening crisis had been averted. "From this point forward, leave the follow-up tasks to us." Fury, leading the troops, stepped forward to support Kyle, his dark face displaying a row of gleaming white teeth. In the final stages of the raid, Kyle had already pushed his body beyond its limits. Excessive blood loss from being shot, coupled with prolonged high-intensity combat, had taken its toll on him. As soon as he allowed himself to relax, he swiftly fell into an unconscious state. Fury commanded several soldiers to transport Kyle and the rescued girl back to the temporary camp for urgent medical attention, while he continued the assault with the remaining 90 soldiers. Thanks to Kyle's massive explosion, the once formidable base now stood defenseless, its organizational systems riddled with vulnerabilities. The hundreds of surviving German soldiers found themselves without commanding officers to lead them into battle. Their initial plan had been to rescue their injured comrades from the explosion area, but now they were faced with a fully armed and well-prepared American force joining the assault, resulting in their swift collapse. The battle raged on from late into the night until 5 o'clock in the morning. As the sky brightened, resembling daylight, Fury and his troops finally completed their clearing of the large base. Despite their overwhelming force, they had still lost 27 soldiers. However, the outcome was extraordinary. Alongside Kyle's remarkable accomplishments, their unit had successfully annihilated approximately 1,200 German soldiers stationed at the base, effectively seizing control of the enemy's major military stronghold. This marked the first time the American military had achieved such a stunning victory in battle. Of course, Kyle remained oblivious to these developments. He slumbered soundly for an entire week while in his comatose state. When he finally regained consciousness, it was the morning of the 8th day. Kyle opened his eyes and found himself lying on a spacious white hospital bed. His left shoulder was bandaged from his waist down, and an IV tube was connected to his wrist. Various medical instruments and probes adorned his bare upper body. Was it really necessary for such extensive measures due to a gunshot wound? Kyle couldn't help but smile wryly, realizing that he had been unconscious for quite some time. After all, during his period of unconsciousness, his mind had been trapped within the confines of the card space. But now, he felt mentally and physically revitalized. His body must have undergone significant recovery. With his hand, Kyle disconnected the 4N probes, gently pressing against the wound on his left shoulder. He could still discern a faint ache, but he comfortably reclined against the headboard. The tables on either side of the bed were adorned with flowers and fruits. A gentle breeze stirred the gauze curtains, offering glimpses of the serene blue sky, forest, and grassland beyond. The atmosphere exuded tranquility. Where have I been transported to? Kyle pondered. Clearly, this was neither the frontline combat zone nor a training base. But ultimately, it didn't matter where he was. As long as he was alive and in good health, that was all that truly mattered. Kyle, ever adaptable, felt a pang of hunger in his stomach. Without delay, he reached for an apple on the table, biting into it and relishing the satisfying crunch as it quelled the surge of hunger. As he reached for a third apple, the door to the ward suddenly swung open, and instinctively, Kyle looked up while still munching on his apple. The sight that greeted him left him astounded. Before his eyes stood a face as exquisite as an angel's, with large, clear, aquamarine eyes and soft, pink lips. Golden curls cascaded down her shoulders. The young girl donned a sky-blue knee-length dress that accentuated her graceful curves, her youthful body exuding a lovable and enchanting charm. Her exposed arms were slender and fair. This was the second top-tier European and American beauty that Kyle had laid eyes on since his rebirth. The first had been Agent Carter from the training base, although Carter exuded a more mature and glamorous beauty, while the girl before him radiated a captivating and endearing appeal. Observing Kyle biting into the apple, the girl blinked in surprise before excitedly calling out from the doorway, resembling a lively rabbit, "Doctor, doctor! Kyle has awakened." "So, it's her," Kyle murmured in astonishment. Hearing that familiar voice, he recognized her as the girl he had rescued from the German base. At that time, the darkness had shrouded their surroundings, and the girl's face had been pale and bloodless, her body tied up in a pitiful state. She had appeared entirely different from her present appearance. Hey, you shouldn't eat the apple like that. You have to peel it," the girl informed the doctor before swiftly returning to the ward and snatching half of the apple from Kyle's hand. Why are you here? Kyle began to speak but quickly realized his mistake, correcting himself. Where am I? The girl replied, we are at the first military hospital in New York. After your rescue at the frontline temporary base and stabilization of your condition, you were transported here via a military transport aircraft for further recovery. Ah, so that's how it is. Kyle nodded thoughtfully, taking in the gravity of the situation. You have no idea. That bullet didn't just hit your left shoulder, it was only a few centimeters away from your heart. It really scared me during the rescue, but luckily your physique is incredibly robust and superior, the young girl said as she approached Kyle, reaching out to adjust his white bandage. What are you doing? Kyle looked at her in surprise, noticing the faint fragrance of her golden hair as she drew near. I'm helping you change the bandage. My parents were doctors and nurses, so I'm quite adept at these things, the girl explained with a touch of sadness flickering across her pretty face. Kyle understood that as a captive, her family and friends in the area must have fallen victim to the invading German forces. Sensing the tense atmosphere, Kyle compelled himself to find a topic of conversation. By the way, I never expected that you would also take care of people. Of course. You have to understand that when you desperately rescue yourself from an enemy base, it's not just a matter of salvaging a bunch of supplies, the girl replied, sticking out her pink tongue, a faint blush spreading across her face as she reminisced about the night she had been tied to Kyle's back. And, I do have a name, Lucy Jane. Just call me Lucy. Got it, Kyle smiled, allowing Lucy to skillfully change his bandages. Before long, the doctor, who also held the position of deputy dean, hurriedly arrived at the ward to examine Kyle's injuries. Doctor, how is he? Lucy asked anxiously. He's fine, the doctor smiled, adjusting his glasses as he addressed Kyle. I never expected that an ordinary person would take about a month to recover from such injuries, but you have already made significant progress in just a week. In about 3 more days, you can officially be discharged. 3 more days. Kyle shrugged helplessly. While others might consider his physique to be at the top level, he still felt considerably weak. With the assurance that his injuries were not a cause for concern, the doctor left the ward, leaving behind a remark. By the way, there's an officer who asked me to inform him once you woke up. I just called him, so he'll probably come here to visit soon. An officer coming to visit him. Kyle scratched his head, his mind racing. It wasn't difficult to guess who the coming officer would be as he was acquainted with fewer than 10 officers, and only 1 or 2 of them shared a close relationship with him. After some time, when the officer knocked on the door and entered the ward, Kyle wore a completely predictable expression, but he still feigned surprise and asked,
Major Joseph, why are you here? Indeed, the officer who had come to visit was none other than Major Joseph, the combat instructor from the training base who had given Kyle several physical green cards. You bastard, why wouldn't I come? Officer Joseph, without a hint of pretense, laughed and scolded Kyle at the same time. However, when he noticed Lucy in the ward, he cleared his throat and straightened up, assuming a more serious demeanor. Oh, so there's family here. Lucy, peeling an apple, shyly lowered her head, refraining from retorting. Enough with the banter, officer. I'm injured and can't spar with you, so just tell me, what are you doing here? Kyle playfully remarked to his close friend Joseph. You little brat, you truly are, amazing. You've made us proud. Officer Joseph's scolding tone took an unexpected turn, transforming into genuine praise, as he had done countless times before. I've heard all about your accomplishments. Going to the front lines, achieving the rank of corporal in just 3 days, gathering crucial enemy camp intelligence, leading 100 soldiers, and single-handedly obliterating an entire large enemy base against all odds, Officer Joseph spoke with emotion, extending his thumb in admiration. You've truly outdone yourself. Do you realize how pivotal this counter-offensive battle is for our army? By destroying a large enemy base, 3 medium-sized camps, and securing a victory in a transitional battle, you've reversed the situation in the front-line combat zone. This flawless counter-offensive has become the talk of all military units and the entire country. As the greatest hero of this counter-offensive battle, you've become an idol for all soldiers and a national symbol. It has even sparked an upsurge of enthusiasm among young people to enlist. In comparison to his swift promotion to corporal, this time Kyle had gained widespread fame with just one battle. Don't shower me with too much praise, or I'll grow a big head, Kyle chuckled, exuding confidence from his youthful and handsome face. Just like Captain America, who had shown during World War II with his super soldier physique, Kyle, possessing the even more formidable extracting card system, faced little difficulty in becoming an American hero. However, this battle had significantly boosted his reputation in the military, exceeding Kyle's expectations. Kyle blinked and asked Joseph with anticipation, "By the way, with such remarkable achievements, has the commanding general mentioned anything about my rank?" "You brat, you're already a corporal, and you're still concerned about your rank." Officer Joseph felt a little dissatisfied in his heart and he blew on his mustache and said sternly, "Military rank is earned step by step. What matters is repelling the Germans and defending our homeland. But, well, you have indeed achieved great merit in this counter-offensive, and your rank has been elevated a bit." Kyle picked up on the key point in those words and eagerly asked, "How much of a bit are we talking about? See for yourself." Officer Joseph seemed reluctant to say more and retrieved the soldier's ID card from his uniform pocket, tossing it to Kyle. Kyle swiftly caught the card and opened it. It was a newly issued personal soldier's ID card, featuring a black and white portrait taken when he enlisted. Kyle Doffer, male, 22 years old, United States Second Lieutenant rank. Second Lieutenant. Kyle was taken aback. This was more than just a bit. It was a substantial leap. From corporal to second lieutenant, there was a 2-rank difference, equivalent to a 3-step jump. Kyle had made a 3-step leap when he was promoted from soldier to corporal, but that was merely a soldier rank, the lowest officer position. This time, however, he had vaulted to a genuine officer rank and had become a commissioned officer.
"Officer Joseph, I see you're also a second lieutenant, right?" Kyle looked at Joseph with a puzzled expression, suddenly understanding why his instructor was displeased. "So, now you're happy. You don't have to address me as officer anymore." Joseph clenched his teeth and spoke with a stern expression on his face. "It took me 10 years of a slow progression to reach the rank of second lieutenant, and you achieved the same in less than 10 days. So you can imagine how I feel." "No, I don't think you can even imagine how I feel." Joseph complained with a touch of resentment. "You've been given a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity." Joseph let out a sigh and continued, "We are currently in the chaotic period of World War II, and the country urgently needs role models to inspire young people's enthusiasm and aspirations to join the military, as well as boost the morale of the army. And you, who stepped forward voluntarily, naturally earned the rank of second lieutenant." Joseph paused for a moment and continued with a smile, "You are not like Captain America, relying on propaganda films and empty titles. Your rank as a second lieutenant is a testament to your true strength and achievements." Captain America. Kyle's heart skipped a beat, and he couldn't contain his excitement as he asked, "Is it Steve?" "Yes, it is." Joseph retrieved the folded copy of the New York Daily News from his pocket and grumbled, "That kid underwent a successful super soldier experiment, and his physique went through astonishing changes. But instead of heading to the battlefield, he spends his days with politicians, making military propaganda films, singing and dancing to raise funds for war bonds, and creating a righteous image for himself as Captain America." Kyle eagerly took the newspaper, and Lucy helped him unfold it as they both examined its contents. On the front page, A large black and white photo dominated the space. It depicted a young man clad in blue and white striped tight clothes, with a handsome and heroic face and a tall, muscular physique. Buy an extra E-Series war bond, and the soldiers on the battlefield will have one more bullet. Who is both strong and brave enough to save America from fire and water? Answer Captain America's call and join our fight. These bold English banners adorn the newspaper, placed above the headlines and subheadings. It really is Steve. Kyle smiled as he gazed at the tall young man in the photograph, faintly recalling the memory of his past frailty. Captain America, Marvel's first artificial superhero, had finally made his debut. Even though his introduction came through these humorous and somewhat absurd political propaganda methods. Joseph, I don't have a mission right now, do I? It's been 2 weeks since I last saw Steve, and I really want to meet him. I hope you can help me with that. Kyle looked at Joseph with anticipation, suppressing the eagerness in his heart. He needed to obtain the Super Soldier ability card as soon as possible. He had grown tired of being limited by the peak physical capabilities of an ordinary human. I understand. Joseph furrowed his brows a little as he heard Kyle's request. Personally, he harbored a strong dislike for Steve, but since it was Kyle who made the request, he had no reason to refuse. Joseph nodded and agreed, all right. Steve is currently traveling across the United States for promotional activities. However, 2 days from now, he will be delivering a propaganda speech at the training base in Europe, and I'll be returning there as well. I'll arrive early to pick you up and take you there. Okay, I can wait for these 2 days. Kyle nodded in agreement, his hands clenched into tight fists. Obtaining the Super Soldier ability card successfully would mark a significant leap in his journey in this Marvel world.